What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracey, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? What is up? What is up? I didn't even think I was going to hear that roar today, so I'm super excited that we're brought into the studio and we got to hear it. So you guys don't even know what I'm talking about, but that's okay. So it's so cool. I was just having this extended conversation with my brother Kevin Sabaski at the coffee shop, and we were doing our normal meeting, and it kind of extended into a longer conversation. And he was like, "Hey, I've got this. I think I've been doing connecting by onesies, twosies, and meeting people singularly." And he was like, I think that I should connect. But at the same time, the same people that send me these referrals, there's a couple people that send me a bulk of the real connections that are great. The people that I just love meeting. And he's like, so I think that I should just change my strategy and try to just meet more of these people that are like these people that are connecting me to more people, like the Steve Ziskowskis of the world, right? And so like, yeah, that's exactly how you do it. You meet the people that can connect you to more people. And when you notice those people keep connecting you to people, you take care of them. You take care of everybody, but you want to make sure that you're shouting those people out. And so Adam San Juan is one of those guys. He's been on the podcast. Check out his episode. It's just a super great episode. But the thing that makes him so awesome is the relationships that he builds in life. And we're coming up upon a year since he's been on the show. I know that because I had Michael Mann on, and that's how I ended up meeting Adam, is because Michael Mann was on and he was on the show, and Adam saw a clip of Michael and and then Michael was able to connect me to Adam. And so people ask me, how do you meet the people that come into your life? And that's exactly how it is. People are our greatest resource. When you meet people and they're connecting you to more and more people, and guess what? Like people surround themselves around each other. And so when Adam connects me to somebody, I know they're going to be a kick-ass, difference maker human being. And so I got to meet Steven Betel. Wow, it's been so many months that I forgot that he was on the schedule. Several months ago. And this is, I guess, what I'll sum up, and we'll get on and talk to Steven. But a few months ago, back in July, we had the SiriusNet breakfast, and it was really special for me because so many people that have been on Coffee and Grit got invited and got to attend. And so there was over 160 people in the audience, and so many people had been on the show, and it was super emotional looking at it because Steve Ziskowski of SiriusNet asked everybody to stand up that had been on the show, and to see that kind of impact and how many people were there. But anyway, so my point of my story is a few weeks after SiriusNet breakfast, my wife, Tracey, was like, man, that's Steven, I don't see many mortgage guys that post such good content. Like, he's actually like him, and he's posting all these videos, and like, I kind of forgot he was a mortgage guy. He's just like got these really cool videos. And that's exactly the point. And when me and Steven, we were talking, it's like creating content and creating stuff that's you. Right. And so in branding, creating that brand, not I'm the mortgage guy or I'm the business coach or I'm the whatever that you're constantly selling, but you're releasing to the wild your difference. And so, Steven, I'm excited to talk about it and talk about how you got to where you're at.
I'm excited as well. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you again for being so patient as I'm keeping you in this waiting room, but I guess at least you're in style while you're here.
It's a cool place to be. I'm cool with it.
So again, can you tell me a little bit about your company, how you got started, and then we're going to jump into the content there.
For sure. So, I mean, the quick version, so to speak, is I've been doing mortgages 11 years now. I started at Quicken Loans with the rest of everyone that does mortgages around this area. Probably anyone that you've talked to that has done a mortgage started there, something with there. Mm-hmm. Years go by. I leave and join the broker world, and I left and did the same thing I was doing in the corporate world. I was dialing the phone all day long, and I said, what am I doing? Why did I leave? Why is this my life? And, it's great. I've learned a lot in mortgages. I've talked to a ton of cool people, but banging my head against a phone for the rest of my life was not the way I was going to do it. So I learned and watched and took some mentors' advice and said, I'm going to do this the right business way, in my opinion. Meet people, network, referrals, turn off all of the leads, turn off all the crap, and just go have fun. And at that time, people were saying, hey, social media, like obviously that's a pillar to doing all of this. Well, I'm not shy to be on camera, so to speak. It was new for me, but I said, what the hell? Let me start doing some videos. Let me start doing some things. And I did what every other mortgage broker does. To your wife's point, I was the guy talking about the same mortgage program every day. I was the boring guy talking like this. And eventually, I actually watched some guy at a presentation that said, no one wants to hear about mortgages every day. Even when they're buying a house, they don't want to hear about mortgages every day.
Yeah.
So how do you talk about things that are in your world that will get people thinking about you, but not preaching at them? And that was easy after that, because I come from a hotel background. I come from doing hotels, restaurants, that kind of stuff. I have formal training on maintenance and all this stuff. And I am one of those special people that likes to clean. I do enjoy it. It kind of eases the tensions, let's call it. So I took that and ran with it. And now my content is around cleaning and organizing and house maintenance and these things that, sure, if you're buying a house is important to you, but if you own a house, it's important too. If you own an apartment, it's important too. And it just gets cool, valuable information out there. And you want to talk to me about my mortgages, then cool, I'm with it too.
That's so cool. So when you started doing this, what did you see happening?
So originally with the content, let's say, nothing. And ironically, it's still not something I see on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Like, you know, as well as a lot of creators do, you're seeing a fraction of what the actual reach is of your videos. It took me a long time to get over the, oh, I'm seeing 1 comment, 3 comments, 1 like, 5 likes. But then the kicker was, I'm a networking madman. I'm everywhere I possibly can. And the more I did it, the more I realized where people were coming up to me. Oh my goodness, I saw your last video. Oh, I watched this. You've never once commented on a darn thing. So you start to see that typical iceberg picture. What's up here is the fraction of it. All the people down here are what's actually watching and impacting and doing. And that was what, let it keep going.
I love this conversation so much, and this is going to be so much fun, because I think this is one validation for people. Because I know when I started making the video and putting out the content, it's like you can get in your head of like, oh, nobody's paying attention to this. And that's where a lot of people stop.
Yep.
They get in their head and they get that imposter syndrome. And if you're not going out into the wild and getting that kind of real feedback, you could really miss a huge opportunity. So it's so awesome, because it's not meant to just be singular over here. When you're pairing it with going out and doing the in-person stuff, now what happens when you're a mortgage guy and you're in a networking room of 100 people, and there's how many mortgage people there? There's so many of them. How do you differentiate yourself?
So it's a funny question, and I'll answer it two-sided and say the differentiation is easy. I've already built it.
That's it.
So the brand's there, the content's there, everything's there. I can walk into any circle and it's not, oh, hey, I met you before, or how's the weather, or how's whatever. It's, I saw this video. Let's talk about this. It's all of that. So that's step one. But the other funny thing, to answer your question, is as much as you'd think there's rooms full of mortgage people, there's not. And it blows my mind. Like when I got into doing the referral side of this business, like CirrusNet, like these other companies out there that have these specific industry networking groups, you can't find a spot anywhere for a mortgage spot, literally. In the Tri-Counties, forget about it.
Yeah.
But I go into a room anywhere and I'm one of 2, maybe.
Wow.
So it's like, that's the question, and that's the motivator in and of itself. It's, you have all these guys that have done this for forever, that are holding these spots, that are sitting comfy and thinking, hey, I'm just going to sit in this group and people are going to send me business. Well, fine. I'm coming for you, though. And my videos are going to take over everything, and people aren't going to know who you are soon, and that's fine.
Reminds me of this quote that we talk about in boot camp all the time. Somewhere, somebody is working harder than you, and when you meet them, they will beat you.
It's so true.
It's like that's so awesome that you're out there and you're grinding, you're doing the things.
Yep. And it's true too. And it's funny, I've said this to a lot of people this year, is to that imposter syndrome, like you said, when I started doing this, like I've done business a long time, but I've never done business this way. Every day was an interesting piece of like, am I meeting the right people? Am I showing up the right way? Am I doing all of these things? It took a while to have that comfort level. And now it's to the point where like, this is just my DNA. This is where I'm at. This is the things. People know me as everywhere. But then it's a matter of flipping the script and saying, okay, people know the work ethic, people know the job, people know what you're doing. Now, how do you scale? Now, how do you delegate? And that's where my mind is going now of like, how do you leverage what you've done to say, hey, it's not just me anymore.
Yeah.
How can we help more?
Ooh. So do you have a team right now?
Working on it.
Okay.
So that's the next couple months plan. There will be the official launch, let's say, of my branch, my brand, and small team behind me. I mean, I have a small team of virtual assistants that do things and help with the engagement and the recording and some of the things that behind the scenes you would never know are happening. But generally speaking, no, I am still a one-man shop and working to not be.
So I'm excited, and I'm already thinking about in the future having you back on, because it's like thinking about this process of doing what you're doing. And I love what you said a little bit ago when you first started talking about this. You said the word fun. I started having fun.
Yep.
And so as you get people that are on your team, how do you help them scale and continue to have fun and embrace who they are and build what you're building?
No, it's a great question, and I'll say that is the biggest daunting challenge to me, let's say, with the future of what I'm doing. I know I can inspire people. I know I can do all of these things. But at the same token, I've never really hired someone before. I've never really said, hey, this is the job. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I need you to do. Mm-hmm. So that's the piece that it almost has held me back a little bit of saying, okay, I know who I need. I know I can show them the road, but again, to that imposter syndrome, am I ready to lead someone that way? Am I ready to give them that value, that vision, all of those things? And I'll say to that effect, that's why I know I'm going to be okay, because I'm worried about those things. Because I'm not the guy that's just like, oh yeah, let's go hire 5 people because I need them to dial the phone. Like, yes, I do, but like there's more thought behind it.
There's more thought to it, because like even thinking about it, and this is a good question, like when they come on, what's that first week look like?
Exactly.
What are you filling their time with productively to ramp up?
No, and I mean, the easy stuff is sure. Like you learn the systems, you get logged into this thing, you get logged into that thing. In my world, I mean, there's a lot of licensing and other things. So like that is almost a predefined path. But then the question is exactly that. Once all of the procedure is done, now what?
Yep.
And the easy answer is pick up the phone and start dialing it. But again, what does that speak to that makes them different than every other person dialing the phone? And that's where my brand has to come into play and say, okay, like, sure, you're now talking to Bill versus Steve, but this is still that brand. This is still that feeling, that passion behind it.
Yeah. So what would you say your brand is?
First of all, the actual brand is Mortgage Family Man. That is the name I operate under. So stepping back, actually, before I answer the question, it's interesting in my world. So I took a page out of the real estate book and said, I'm working for a brokerage, just like a Keller Williams or Real Estate One or whatever. But I'm out talking me all day long. So I love my company, but I'm not going to go talk about them all day long to get their phone to ring versus mine.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, let me make the Steve team like they do it in real estate. They have every named team you can think of.
Yep.
And so that's where Mortgage Family Man came. It was a way to accentuate myself in those situations, in those rooms, in those conversations. So the brand is that exactly. It's family first and everything else behind. Because the conversation I have with all of my clients is this exact effect. Like, what you qualify for versus what makes sense to you are very different things. But then you have to throw the numbers out the window and say, am I living where I want to be? Is family nearby? Is it the right school district for my kids? All these things, and have a real conversation. So again, if anything, that is the brand of saying, sure, I can give you a mortgage. That's the point. But are we going to have a conversation around that of, are you ready to buy a house? Do you have the resources if something breaks? Are you going to be around the people that you want to be? All these things that every other person is saying, no, we're just going to sell you the house and you can figure it out later.
That's deep. It's nice. It's impactful. It's like what people are looking for.
And that's, again, the difference of why I continue to grow and continue to have these conversations. And frankly, even the few clients that say, hey, they're not going to work with me because they're hearing better numbers elsewhere. Okay, sure. Yeah, they're telling you better numbers today for them to change the same thing I'm telling you tomorrow. Yeah. Because I'd rather be honest, and I'd rather you know what your family's getting into. So it's hard in the world I'm in. There's a lot of money and there's a lot of people just out for it. And that's almost the hard part of breaking that mold of saying, you're talking to someone different. You're not just every other person calling them.
Yes. It's so game changing, but you do have to do. How long does it take you to earn that trust, I guess?
So it depends. It depends on where the client's coming from.
Yeah.
And then it depends on how open they are to looking at things is really. Like if it comes from a valued partner or someone like Adam, for example, with us, easy. That trust is already built, at least to a degree. We know we're going to have that vibe. You then go to the people that at least are open to hearing what I'm going to say. Okay, go check out my content. Okay, go check out my Google reviews. The things that give me that social proof that can help that. If they're not open and willing to do those things, it can be 3, 4, 5 phone calls before we really get there. And sometimes it's even past that. I mean, I just had someone yesterday that we talked for months and then they call and say, hey, I'm going to go with someone else because I should be pre-approved by now. My friend told me I should be. I had to rewind our conversation and remind them like, no, you're not qualified right now. These are the things we're working on. This is why we're doing it. I'm not going to just send you out to the wolves to have fun. But again, this is the stuff that does take some reminding, let's call it, over that time. And it isn't a straight path. You're absolutely correct.
And it's like, I love how you bring that up too, is like friends are always making recommendations, whether it's in mortgages or financials or whatever it is, like, oh, you should do this or this or this. And they have no idea your personal situation.
That's correct. And that's the number one thing I tell everyone is everyone's situation is different. Like that's life, that's everything. But especially when you look at finances, I mean, you're talking credit scores and jobs and all of this. And again, put all that aside. What is your expectation? Do you want $1,000 payment for a $300,000 house? Do you want to be in an area that just is not going to be affordable for you? These, again, are all the real conversations. And it's not just, oh, hey, you can't qualify for this. Like, I'm crushing your dreams. Like, you can't live where you want your kids to be. You can't be where your family is. Like, that's where this gets deep and hard. And it's, again, it's a level of care that most people are not doing. So that's the fight of itself is someone could have talked to 5 of me before and been denied 5 times.
Yeah.
And okay, let's build out of that trust hole first of saying, I'm going to trust anyone that does your job, let alone trust you. It's very interesting.
It's huge when it's like the almost PTSD.
Yeah.
And they just expect you to be just like everybody else.
Correct.
So how do you build that trust? Like when they have that wall up?
And really, I would say it's very similar to what I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
I give them the roadmap of saying, there's 3 things that I have to focus on with any client. I have to make this actually work numbers-wise, qualifying, all of that lines up. Not only what you qualify for, but actually what works. Number 2, the emotional. I have to make this work for the area you want to be, the number of bedrooms you need, your family's going to be happy, all the things, all the stuff that really matters. But number 3 is making your offer competitive. Because all the other crap doesn't matter if you can't get an offer accepted. So that's the last piece of this is you might be the client that affords a house, needs the assistance, all of these things, but it's going to take you 8 offers to get there. And how do you keep that morale? How do you keep that excitement around this process through that? Some people are gung-ho about it, and some, again, it's a constant every day reminding them of that goal, reminding them of that trust, reminding them what we're doing. But that's the answer to the question is I give them that roadmap of this is not just I'm going to pull your credit, I'm going to talk to you about your income. There are all these things I'm looking at. Usually once they hear that, it's brought the guard down a little bit, let's say.
And then I love on top of it is you stay with them is what I'm hearing.
Yep.
You're staying with them. And that's so hard in so many service areas of, people staying with you through that process and they have your back.
It is tough. I will agree. And it's something that I've learned that and how hard that is and why I say what I do. And literally, it's the same statement every time. I've been doing mortgages 11 years. I don't care if it's a week or 5 years. I'm with you through that entire process. Every client hears that to that exact point because it's not a straight line. Not everyone's process is the same. Someone might buy a house in 2 weeks and most of them are not buying for 6 months to 2 years. So, it takes a lot of care, it takes a lot of memory, and it takes a lot of good technology behind me to keep track of these things. And that's part of the, fun OCD of my brain. Is how it helps me do all that.
That's like, how did you discover these superpowers and, in the OCD?
It's funny. I'll say I always have been like this. Like, truthfully, like I've joked for as long as I can remember, I'm undiagnosed OCD. Like, I'm not one that twitches and needs to close the door 5 times, but like I know there's some ingrained things in my personality. And it's always been that way. I've always been very organized. I've always been on top of these things. But my last 10 years in business have shown that, reminded that, and exploded it. Because you realize, how rare those skills are, truthfully. So everywhere in my corporate environment was, wow, Steve's the guy to go to for this. He'll help you with this, calendar, lists, whatever. And then again, when the content came as an idea and that really fell through to it, I was like, wow, that's when it really started unlocking and seeing. And again, I get comments from people, not online, in real life, every day, no matter where I'm going. Wow, that helped me this helped me that. Like,
That's
I have
so
a video
cool.
about a pillow, literally how to put your pillow in your pillowcase, something I learned back in hotels 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Every week I have someone stop me and being like, that's the best tip I've ever seen. Like, and this is a pillow. Like, I don't think about these things, but that's the point to anyone that's has these unique skills, has these things. First of all, you got to notice it yourself and you got to work on it a little bit, but you have to give yourself the ability for people to shine that light on it for you and really see like, wow, this is truly something special, and then run with it.
Just run with it. And it's so cool because you never know how much you're going to impact somebody with a video on a pillowcase on how to put a pillowcase on.
Yeah.
And it's just the little stuff though.
It is.
It's like the little things in life that can make such a huge difference.
And that's, again, when you start going into this crazy content world, you see that more and more by the day. And I know you probably have examples yourself, as any creator does. The simple little thing that you thought is nothing.
Yeah.
And it gets the most play, it gets the most this, whatever. And you're like, wow, was that really it? Like, is this all I've been waiting on?
Because we overthink so much.
Yes.
I know when I first started creating content, it was like trying to put the perfect thing out there and like, oh my God, how many retakes I did.
Yeah, there was a few at least, right?
And then you just go out there and I mean, you look really good in your stuff. Like
Thank you.
And how long have you been doing it for?
So this is going on about 2 full years at this point.
Has it always been just easy and fun?
It's always been relatively, let's say.
Yeah.
But I look back just like any creator and I'm like, wow, that was awful. Like, truthfully. And it's funny, one of the biggest things that I've learned is the looking at the camera. Like, especially when you're taking content like this, like most people are, you're going to be looking at that phone. You're going to be looking at your face in the screen. Yeah. Except when that looks like you look like this. And you're looking down the whole time. So training yourself just on that alone of staring at that little itty bitty dot, that's huge.
It's huge.
Talking to it. And the second thing of that is, again, just having that conversation. It used to feel like I'm talking at a camera. Now it feels like I'm talking to Jason. I'm talking to whoever. Like, I am talking to that individual person on the other end of the video. It feels much more natural that way. And then again, now I'm pretty much one take on everything because of that exact fact is I'm not looking for overly produced. Yeah. Sure, I have an editor, helps me put things together, catches your eye, all the fun stuff. But like, I'm a person just talking to you, giving you advice on something that you need to know about your house or need to know about how to organize your business. It doesn't need to be this overly done thing, let's say.
Because it's the value of the content. It doesn't matter. It's like some of the stuff I've heard people say is far too overproduced, looking to where they won't even open it. Yep. They want authentic.
Yep. And I'll say with that in mind, that's one of the hardest things I struggle with is the thumbnail side of it and what I'm showing to entice people into that video versus what looks natural versus this overproduced thing. And especially when you're talking short form content like I do, it's a very hard play. Like, YouTube's a whole nother story. I mean, long form, you have that. That's the goal, is to drag them into an hour-long video potentially. But like most of the time, these thumbnails aren't doing anything. Like, you have to have that first couple seconds of your video as Instagram's picking it up, whatever's picking it up, as like that excitement.
What are your big platforms?
So I go the top 4: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Or I'm sorry, not Twitter, TikTok.
Yeah.
I personally have not ventured into the what needs to be on the right platform, what time are you posting, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's value there. And as I continue to grow, there'll be people that I will employ and help to nail these things in further. But if anyone's listening, the number one thing I would want them to hear about this is don't get caught in the crap. Just record the darn video and post it.
Yeah.
My rule is within the 24 hours of the day. Most of my videos are posted somewhere between 10 and 11 p.m. because I'm recording them in the morning. My editor gets them to me at like 2. At some point before 5, I'm telling him if there's any edits that need to be updated. I then finish up work. I deal with my kids for 3-4 hours. I get them off to bed and I'm like, oh crap, I haven't posted my video yet for the day. And you post it and it's good and it's fine. And you know, I have still never really seen a drop in engagement. There's a few here and there that just didn't hit because of that.
Yep.
But again, it's a 24-hour cycle on most of these things. It's still getting picked up the next day. So that's the thing. And again, like, don't get stuck doing a thumbnail or worried about this or making the perfect posting of the words or whatever. It is what it is. So same thing, like my same video goes on Facebook as it goes on Instagram, as it goes on LinkedIn. Is there 100% value to all of those for each platform? No, honestly, especially LinkedIn. That's a fine line with the business side of things.
Yep.
But all these people still own a home.
Yep.
All of them still need to organize their life. So that's where I can comfortably hang my hat and say, you know, is it hitting everyone? No, but is there people that are only going onto one of these platforms and they're going to see it here versus the last one? Awesome.
How many does it really take?
And that's the thing.
It could only take 1 or 2. I had this post on LinkedIn a long time ago that was like, it's the quality over quantity. Because I've had posts that have gotten, have hit big and then I've got nothing out of it. And I've had posts that have like, seen a couple hundred people and it's gotten the right people. People that like message me or we have dialogue and we've created a relationship from it.
Yep. And that's the piece of it too. And I'll say that is in that statement, the piece that again, I need to start cranking to is taking from content creation and engagement to the next level of actually gaining business from it. Like I've got some clients, more just peripheral friends, family, people that I wouldn't have communicated with otherwise that have seen my content and said, oh yeah, he does mortgages. Let me reach back out. But that is the next step for sure of saying, how do you turn these likes into direct messages? How do you get these people interacting and transacting?
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part for sure.
It is. So, I put a lot of emphasis on LinkedIn when I first started. Facebook to me was, it was like somebody used this analogy, and it was like maybe end of 2019 going into 2020. Somebody was like, Facebook and Instagram are like the family barbecue, and LinkedIn is like the networking event. And so like you go to the family barbecue and people want to know about the kids and the family and work and what's going on good in life and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And on LinkedIn, it's like being a speaker at a networking event. When you post content, you're speaking in front of people that actually want to learn, grow. They're there for a business reason or a personal growth reason.
That's a great analogy.
And so I poured a lot into LinkedIn using that and it was also going to 2020. You have all the political stuff and like all the, all the things going on. Sure. I'm like, so long story short, I was putting a lot on LinkedIn and it was really easy to do this. Anybody I connected with, I would shoot a message to.
Sure.
And one of the things I'd ask them is a question instead of, this is who I am or over speaking, I'd say, thanks for connecting, whatever. And then I'd say, what makes a connection great for you? And it was such a
good question.
Hack. And people so many times respond, that's such an awesome question. Thank you for asking. If they were there to just sell me, it was 2-paragraph sales pitch.
You know it real quick.
They go in the garbage, right? The people that were like, I'm here to learn and grow and meet great people and connect and, mentorship or friendship or collaboration or, all those words are my buzzwords. Those are what I want out of this same platform. So those people I'd draw in and be like, sounds great. Let's connect for a short conversation and learn more about each other. And it was like that during 2020 of not being able to go out and do networking meetings and all that kind of stuff. I was just boom on LinkedIn content. And then I looked at it like, okay, I'm creating this content, and I used to work in retail. So I'm like, now people are walking into my retail store. They're liking the posts. They're commenting on the posts. So I'm going to go and I'm going to reach out, because if they walked into my retail store, I'd have a conversation with them, right? I'd say, hey, why are you here?
Right. No, seriously.
That's exactly.
Do you want to look at the shirt?
You want to look at the shirt. And so especially when I'd noticed people were liking my posts a couple times in the same small period of time, I'd shoot out and say, hey, Felicia, I see that you've liked the post. I just want to say so much gratitude. What particularly is connecting with you? Yep. And then we'd have a little bit of a dialogue, and it's like, hey, I would love to just short conversations, love to meet more and love to learn more about you. And it was just, you talk about like the networking. So like networking, creating content, and then actually doing something and having a strategy around that content to build relationships. And it's like pouring gasoline on the sparks.
Yeah. No, and it's funny that you put it that way, because I'll tell you, as a solopreneur, so to speak, this is the hardest part of what I've been doing. And I joke with people, but anyone that knows my business, I don't sleep. Like literally it's 4 to 5 hours a night, because I'm doing all of the jobs. Like I am the content creator and marketer. I am the CEO doing all these things, and I'm still the one dialing the phone and bringing in clients every day. So to your exact point, I know the hole in my business is exactly what you said, of that third piece of the follow-up. I have 1,000 people that have looked at my stuff over the last couple of years that I have done nothing with, aside from simple responsive comments. Hey, you commented something, let me engage back with you. But that's it. So to that exact point, I know that that's part of the trajectory of my scale of saying, let me fill someone into what I'm doing, take off the day-to-day phone calling, where I can sit in front of my computer for 4 hours and say, wow, these are all the people that are engaging with what I'm doing and want to transact with us. Now, let's go.
What would you consider your superpower in the business?
Connection.
Yep.
Truthfully. I mean, it's funny. I always knew I had a knack for that, but the time doing all the networking over the last couple of years has truly shown it to me. And it's amazing how many people cannot walk into a room and smile and shake hands and just have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I can do that very well. And I like it, and I enjoy it, and I want to learn about people. So that is the superpower, easily. And then the consistency. And I will tell you that if I've gotten any feedback over the last couple of years, that is it. And people still to this day, how are you so consistent? It's a muscle. And I've worked on it my entire life, and it will never, ever stop.
I'm glad you use that analogy, because people often think, how do you get that way? And it's just like if you went to the gym and built a muscle.
Yep.
It's consistency, right? It's like literally, if you do it in and out, creating the content. Yep. You know, and then looking back in the rear view and being like, wow, that was awful. But there are some people that are like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's amazing. Like I would love to do that, you know, be that way. But because you've put that work in, there's such a difference.
Correct. And exactly, it's just watching that trajectory. I mean, it was actually fun. I remember at the end of this past year, I did a few like recap videos, let's call it. End of the year, I'd done a whole year's worth of content. And I remember I put one out, and it was like, I've created 200 videos this year and a story every single day, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I'm looking at these numbers, and it's mind-boggling to like, wow, like just daily work, how that can add up. And that's the secret. So there's no secret.
In my head right now, I'm building your business. Because just think, if you were able to go out and use your superpower all day, and then somebody else is working that follow-up.
And that's exactly the point, 100%. And I will say, and that's the power and also the struggle I have with building this, going back to what we first started talking about, is I'm never one that's going to come in and say, here's the job you need to do, and I've never done it. Like, I'm not ever going to be that guy. So I'm going to kill myself as much as I can to figure out all the holes and all the issues and all the things, so that when I insert that person, it's not easy, obviously, but it's relatively easier. And then I can comfortably sit back and do my thing, do the superpower, go to 10 more events a week, talk to all these different people, build more into the brand. Like, that's the stuff
creating more content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, again, my mind's exploding. I'm like, I'm all excited for you over here. It's like, what do we need to do to get you some employees? Let's go. And then that's what I need too.
We all do, right?
We all do. And I think everybody listening, what I love about this is because the stories are the data of soul. It uncovers the things. I think how many people listening right now can relate to exactly what you're saying. Not only are we doing the hunting, we also have to do the cleaning of the meat, and then we have to cook it too. I'm doing the coaching or the trainings or the speaking, but I also have to market it and sell it and, doing all those things. I was telling my meeting before this, like I know the things that I would unload, the things that take the energy out of me, like emails. Oh my God. If somebody just replied to all my emails, if I could train somebody
love it so much.
Just a system, like every email that they reply like they're me, that'd be amazing.
It's coming for both of us, and AI is probably going to do it soon enough.
That'd be fantastic. AI, I still don't trust something.
No, I
was playing around with the trying to create for one of my clients like just an cover art. Sure. So I was using the imagery, and it is so funny trying to get it. What it turns out, it is just hilarious. And there's and then they nailed it one time, and I'm like, okay, create one just like that. Same characters, same picture, but different caption. And then it came out and it was like the complete opposite of what that picture was. It was like some guy with mutton chop. It was hilarious. And so I'm literally arguing with AI. I'm like ChatGPT. I'm like,
do not do that.
Like, take a look at these two pictures and tell me what's similar about them. And ChatGPT came back and was like, okay, I get your point. They're not similar at all.
That's funny.
Yeah. I'm like, I told my wife, I'm like, I'm going crazy here. I'm sitting here arguing with ChatGPT right now.
A lot of us are doing that for sure.
But it's just hilarious. But that would be nice when it does get there, and
soon enough.
And Michelle Armstrong, Michelle. Mm-hmm, yep. Mm-hmm. So another Adam San Juan person. I had her on the show, and she's trying to get there and create.
We're actually meeting in a couple weeks.
Oh, awesome! This is like we need assistance.
Oh yeah, no, and I mean to give you an idea, like with what I'm thinking with her, I mean she does essentially a digital avatar on your site of you, and like my upcoming brand is going to be X brand, not launching it yet.
Yep.
Home of the Mortgage Family Man.
Ooh.
So my initial thought speaking to her is I'm that digital avatar living on the site. The Mortgage Family Man is on there talking to you.
Yep.
And like, again, that's where the scale can come in of saying, hey, like all of these day one questions that I'm answering, sure, there's some trust built there. Sure, there's some client service built there. And yes, that's the stuff I'm worried about losing. But on the flip side, what are you gaining by allowing that day one stuff to move? And now you're dealing with day 5, day 6, day 7, the real, what you need to be involved with.
Well, I have a client they wrote a book called Shine, and it's the 10 disciplines for driven people to where you can find more time, energy, while also making more impact on the world, while also having peace.
I love that.
And one of the 10 disciplines is don't do $25 an hour work.
Yep.
And that's my toughest discipline out of all 10 because it's like that gap of getting to where, okay, I can afford to hire this person. But then there's that other argument of like, what could I do with my superpower if I found a way to pay this person and got this off my plate? Like, how couldn't I afford this person then at that point? Because there's so much more, like if you're just focusing on your superpower and you're out there connecting and creating content, being consistent, there's so much work for them to follow up on.
Yes, correct. And I'll say this is equally struggle with like so much because it's right. When you're staring in front of you and you're running your business and you're looking at your bottom line and you're like, wow, to hire someone that's $30,000, $40,000, whatever it is for the year in a salary, you're like, how?
Yeah.
How is that possible? But to your exact point, and my editing is a perfect example. I self-curated my videos for over a year and a half. CapCut on my cell phone.
Yep.
Recorded it, edited everything. And that 10 p.m. that I was joking about was often me sitting onto the couch like, oh, crap, I have an hour and a half ahead of me to edit, put this together, type it, post it, everything. And I'm like, wow, like that sucks.
Yeah.
And I remember I hired an editor. He was great, more local. I bit the bullet and was paying him. Luckily, I had a buddy that introduced me to a virtual assistant that's an editor, is amazing. And he's been who I've been using now. I'm like, I literally don't remember my life before that because it is so much. Like,
Yeah.
I record in the morning, I drop it to him. It's fantastic. He can do everything same day, which is very rare from an editor standpoint. And I'll get it back. And again, it's 10 p.m. I'm looking at it, but it's 5 minutes at that point. I'm adding my cover photo, I'm typing up the quick copy, and then I'm rolling with it. And that's the exact thing is like, if nothing else, I'm not necessarily getting more work done at that point, but I can have a life at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And that is just as important.
That's just as important because it comes back to being the family man, right?
Yep.
It's hard to be the family man when you don't have time for your own family.
Well, that's the funny thing. And I mean, we joke about it,
Yeah.
but in so seriousness, like that's why I am the way I am. And that's why I'm not working in corporate anymore. Like when COVID hit, I was still in the corporate world. We were all sent home, obviously. And I had a office on the first floor with the glass doors. And I watched my daughter from 6 months up every day, watching her grow. And like, I'm still sitting there working,
Yeah.
but I'm seeing her and I'm
it.
watching it and I'm able to jump out and interact and whatnot. And I knew that that wasn't going to be a reality eventually back in the corporate world.
You're going to go back sometime. Yeah.
Barring some other issues and miscellaneous things, that was one of the biggest drivers. And now to where I am today, like, sure, I'll have events in the evening here and there and I'll have things to go to. But generally speaking, 6 to 9 p.m., I am done. Like, I cut my work day off. I'm with the family. We're doing dinner. We're doing stuff around the house, cleaning up, playing, whatever. Once they go to bed, then I'm back to work. And again, that's the entrepreneur in me. That's the hustler in me.
Yep.
And like, I'm working from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. every day, legitimately. Like, and for any entrepreneurs listening, like that's the thing you have to realize. This is not a easy deal. It might look fun and it might look like it's an enjoyable thing, but I am making the tough decisions where I can run around all day and meeting people, talk to people while they're awake.
Yep.
I'm taking the time to deal with the family, and then I'm doing the work that doesn't require any of that when everyone else is asleep.
Yep.
And eventually, sure, that'll be the stuff I'm paying for, where I can then do bigger picture stuff in the evening and really build and grow. And, you know, you're absolutely right.
It's I love this. Again, if you're sitting and thinking about entrepreneurship, it can look easy or anything. I will tell everybody, and I think I've had so many people on the podcast say this. I think out of the 184 episodes we've had, not one person would say they would trade this for the world. Not one person would say they'd give it up and go back to the work for any certain reason. You know, like I'm ruined. Like you
Seriously.
can't hire me.
No, I will never go back and work for someone again. It will not happen.
But it does take a lot of work, and especially in the beginning when, it may take an unreasonable amount of work, a lot of effort in that grind. But man, like, especially if you're doing it right from the standpoint of making sure that you're being able to be with the family and that kind of thing, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's creating a life. Part of entrepreneurship to me is creating the life that I love. It's not just the work and the hustle.
Yes.
It's being able to be off and back at home at 3:30 on a day because my son's playing football that day, or he has a game and a track meet or whatever, that because it's early I can jump off and go do. Or when I was coaching them in sports, I could be off by 5 o'clock because practice starts at 6 and I can be there on time. And like knowing that when I'm out, it's with family.
Yep.
And then even if I'm coming back at 9 or 10 o'clock, okay, now's back behind the computer or doing whatever I can't do, talking to clients or whatnot.
No, again, it's so true. And it's the thing that I think so many people overlook when they're thinking about starting a business.
Yeah.
They're only thinking about their business. They're only thinking about what that will do financially and time in the business.
Yep.
But it's all the other things. I mean, to that exact example, we had a curriculum night for my daughter. She just went into kindergarten this year. And the teacher's talking about this volunteer and this whatever field trip and all these things. And my wife's head's already spinning. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, luckily we both have jobs where we can make the decision to do what we want when we want.
Yep.
And sure, we work more than most people, but we also can decide not to. And that is the exact kicker. I will not miss a darn thing because, again, like there's always going to be another client. There's not going to be another daughter.
5,000%. And honestly, if you have a client that is like, that doesn't understand why you have this time blocked off, then they're not good clients or good fits anyway.
So true. And I will say that is the number one hardest thing
hard.
that I've learned,
Tough.
that
Yeah.
everyone learned in this business
Yep.
is that exact piece is who is the right client for you. And not everyone is, and that's okay.
Yeah. Who would you say is your favorite people?
You know, it's a great question. I will say it's funny in my world because mortgage is so wide.
Yeah.
Everyone has
almost
a house or wants to own a house.
Yeah.
So there is that, say, built in, like, I don't want to count anyone out, so to speak.
Yep.
But on the side of it, there's really two populations that I would say I target. One is a first-time buyer. I do truly love to educate. I have my mom was a teacher, my mother-in-law was a teacher. Like, I come from that background. It's where I'm comfortable teaching people. And again, in this world of lack of that, of just let's get you in a house to make $1, I want to make sure people know what's going on. So I love that part of it. Again, whether it's a year or 5 years, we're going to be in it together. Awesome. The flip side of that is people just like me, a growing family that needs space. I've now on to upsized into my third house in 5-6 years roughly because of that exact point. We had our daughter. We're looking at having our son. We know what the space we want. We know we want to be able to host family dinners. We want to do these things. So it's how do you leverage what you have, or how do you say, hey, these are things are not right for me. These are right for me. What do I need?
Yeah.
So that conversation is always a fun one too, because again, they are just like me. It makes it easy. But on the flip side of that, like, it's funny, there's a lot of loans targeted towards seniors, and there's a lot of seniors out there. It's a growing population. I don't mind working with them, but it's not my target either. It's not the people that I'm looking to speak to every day. Whereas like you'll have 15 realtors that their only specialization is seniors and helping them downsize and helping
It's a
them
bigger thing
on.
now. I see a lot of it now that are specialized with senior care.
Which is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah.
And again, like, I'm not one to say, hey, I'm not going to help you. And please, I'll probably help you better than most of the people anyway. But it's, again, it's a different mindset of what you're trying to do with this. And frankly, it's a different mindset around the finances as well. Most of the mindset in the older population is, hey, I'm going to get my house. I'm going to pay it off. I'm going to live in it because that's what we were taught. Frankly, I'm going to say that's not the right way. Your house is a financial vehicle. Sure, it needs to be where you want it so your family has all the things they need and they can live in the right place and whatnot, but it is still an investment. It is still something you can leverage to build more. And that's the things I'm teaching my clients as I'm going with them is, hey, okay, let's house hack this and let's get that 2-unit property where you can live in one and rent out the other. Like, hell, I wish someone would have taught me that before I had kids and a life and family and all these things where I could buy that kind of property. Like, hey, I haven't done bad for myself, but there's ways to make it better.
Yeah, exactly. If someone like you was out there, they would have helped you.
Exactly.
I love that. And I love that answer because that's my favorite answer. By the way, a lot of people don't realize that the person that they love to help the most is them, people like them, you know, and when you are in tune with that, that's usually when you're having the most fun in business.
Exactly. I mean, again, like, what are we all here for? I mean, sure, we got to make money. We got to support our people. But at the end of the day, it's more than that. You got to have some fun. You got to have some relationships. And like, again, that's what really opened my eyes when I turned all of the crap off in my industry and said, I'm just going to go meet people. Like, you can get so lost in our business or any business calling the phone and trying to find business. Yeah. Or you can be you and let it find you.
It's huge. And then when you go out there, like you said, there's not even much, there's no one else like you. Insane. And you talk about like older people are not necessarily your client. Mortgage people and financial planners are not my client. Because there's so many rules and regulations and you don't see many of them that are comfortable being themselves. Sure. There's a lot of like sharing of industry trends and like stuff that they didn't curate or create that they're putting out there. And so like, again, what's so refreshing and what's so different about you is that you get you in the content and it's not about your APR or whatever, like, you know, something that you're going to get lost in and bored with that you don't even know. The reason why you're so valuable is because people don't know what you know, and they don't necessarily want to. No, again, they just want to work.
Right. Like, you don't need to know how all this mortgage stuff works.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to at all, you know? And so to the point when you said somebody wise pointed out to you, like, nobody wants to read this content. Nobody wants to read that content. That's why they have you.
Correct. No, it's exactly right. Ask the question to the person that matters when it matters to them. Otherwise, there's better things for people to learn than what a down payment is. Like, no, you're going to use it twice in your life. I do this every day. Most people don't. Yeah. It's okay.
I think what's so genius about what you're doing is like, it's pre-programmed, pre-training people or your people to be comfortable asking questions, be comfortable seeking knowledge from you.
Mm-hmm. And it's even as deep as I take it. Like, it's funny. I try to train so many people around me of how deep you really need to think about these things. And it even comes down to the clothes. Like, obviously you can only see a t-shirt in the video here, but 9 out of 10 times I'm literally in athletic shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
By design.
Yeah.
Because A, I'm comfortable and I'm running around all day. So like, I don't want to be uncomfortable, but do you want the stuffy guy up in an office in a suit to ask questions to? Or do you want the guy that's not going to give you crap about it and you're just going to talk with?
Yeah.
Again, easy 500%. Answer in my book.
Yeah.
So that's the things that I'm doing, whether it's the clothes I'm wearing or now I go to meetings, I bring my iPad with my digital pencil because I'm a young guy.
Yeah.
I'm going into these rooms.
Yep.
I'm meeting people the way I want to meet them and I'm bringing out a paper and a pencil like everyone else. No. How do I stand out in every single interaction and make my brand on display?
It's just the littlest details.
Yep.
And I love how you have it thought out.
Everything. Or at least I think everything.
Yeah. Well, you know, it is, but like that's so awesome. It's just like, again, those little details matter and people notice. Mm-hmm. Well, even if it's subconsciously.
And it's funny too. Like I would love if I could get this guy on your show for you. Is the gentleman named Johnny Cupcakes. It's a t-shirt brand I've watched for forever. I was so lucky to actually see him in person this past weekend. And he's a brand like no other. But he's talking about all the things he pays attention to, and down to the simplest thing, he's like, I do all this work on my windows on my storefront, but everyone these days is walking on their phone and doesn't see anything. So he pumps frosting smell out of the front of his store so that people are like, huh, what's that? And they look up and they're like, oh, the door's open. Let me walk in. And all of a sudden you're in the store and you're doing this thing. But like a fraction of businesses are thinking that deep. How can you get the details to notice?
Oh my God, yeah.
And that's where the magic is.
It's where the this is awesome. That's a phenomenal story. And I'd love to have Johnny Cupcake on. That's awesome.
We'll get you guys connected.
But like, I would be running retail stores. It would be like trying to think outside of the box. So I'm sitting in a store and there's nobody in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. Our employees are parked to the side, right? All of our cars, we've got 6 employees on the inside.
Right, trying to make room for the people.
Making room for the people. So there's nobody in the parking lot and nobody's coming in. So what do you, if I'm somebody and I'm walking into a sales environment and I know that it's just all hungry salespeople looking up like fresh meat, I'm not walking into that store. I'm not being the only customer walking in.
I agree.
Right? And so I was like, hey guys, move your cars. Let's put our cars up here in the front. And I swear to God, every time we'd move the cars and position them and act like we were clients, all of a sudden people are rolling in. It's just like the little psychology.
Yep. And that's the thing.
It's the little things. I love. Oh, okay. This was something that was like, as you were talking earlier, kind of popped up. I'm like, sure. You're such a teacher. I wonder if you have any teaching background. And then you brought up how your whole family.
Just my mom.
Just your mom.
So I mean, again, I've watched it my whole life, but nothing that I'm formally taught, so to speak. Like again, I mean, I'm very fortunate. I've been through very good schools and very good things like presentation teaching, all these things like. It's been drilled in me. Sure, I'm a product of modern education, but it's just something that I'm used to. And then the content extrapolates. It really does. I mean, it's training that presenting every day.
I love the underlying of teacher, that kind of thing, that skill set, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I've had so many people that have been on this show or that I've had conversations with that are entrepreneurs that said, I really just wanted to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. I just really wanted to be a teacher. And I've heard that phrase so many different times, but they weren't a teacher because either the money wasn't right or whatever reason, going through the schooling, they just did entrepreneurship, whatever it was, but their skill is really in teaching other people. And I love kind of that outside of the box because I think we grow up with a really small box of things that we can do.
Yes.
You think about kids and you can be a fireman, a policeman, a teacher, a professional athlete, what else? A nurse, a doctor, a lawyer. There's 7.
All right, the basic professions.
What else can
right.
we be? There's 7, and those are the things. And then you look at them like a police officer, a fireman. Most firemen don't even get paid, And I just flipped out the camera because that sucks. Most firemen don't even get paid. Like we're teaching kids. Here's 7 things, and most of these things don't even make money. Really, if you want to make money, you got to be a doctor or a lawyer. But then you look at these skill sets, and so for me, I wanted to be, when I was in school, I wanted to be one of 2 things. I wanted to be a psychologist because I wanted to help other messed up people like me. Fair. Going back to, I in my youth, I had a crazy father, and I went through therapists and stuff like that. And so I saw people helping me, and I'm like, I want to do that same thing. I want to sit down on the couch. I want to get to know people. I want to dive into them, and I want to help them. Right.
Which I see you'd be good at, but maybe a little too much energy.
Right. So then the other thing I wanted to be was a sports journalist.
Cool.
So I loved interviewing people. I'm obsessed with sports. I was like, I want to create content. Fast forward, I went to community college. I didn't do psychology because I was like, that's too much schooling. That's a lot of school to have to go through to go into any kind of therapist position whatsoever. And then so I'm going to school. I'm paying my way. I'm going to be a sports journalist that I'm passionate about. I'm doing some freelance writing and stuff like that. I ended up getting into sales. And then at some point, I'm like, I'm making more money than people with their business degrees that I'm working with. I'm just going to stay this route. And so I ended up staying in sales. Fast forward one day, I'm sitting and I'm thinking about what I wanted to be when I was younger, especially now with this business and all the things I'm doing. And I'm a psychologist. I'm one-on-one coaching people. I'm diving into their mindset, into their, we're diving deep, and then I'm helping them, empowering them to move forward. I'm creating all this content. We're sitting here right now, doing this content, doing the interviews. I went outside, and I didn't even do this on purpose. It was just what I was meant to be. It was what I was meant to do, but I wasn't meant to do it in a conventional way. Yep. And so all that to go back to the teaching thing of there are certain things that you were meant to do. You have these gifts, but instead of going the conventional route, you found a different way to serve people.
It's true. And I will say to what you're saying with the schooling, it's very interesting because I talk to people all the time. They don't teach what I do in school. No mortgages, no budgeting, no any of this. None of it exists.
Yeah.
But hell, going through school, I didn't even know this exists, period. I came from the hotel world, which first of all is a whole nother thing in itself. My program for college at Michigan State required multiple internships. I worked in my field. I still didn't have the blinders off of, wow, I'm going to work in a hotel for the rest of my life. And I'm going to work on every holiday and every night. And I hate my life. And that's eventually what I figured out when it was finally my career and I'm getting this actual paycheck and done all the school. And I was like, wow. This is not what it's cut out to be. So that's one side of it of not even realizing what's possible. But then again, are you just not even looking at what your gifts are? And that's the part of it that's there too. Again, I had to go through the time in the corporate world. I had to get that training. I had to have the sales background, the confidence, the process, all the things that they trained me on. But I look back now and I'm like, how did I not do what I'm doing today up until now?
Yeah.
Because this is natural. This is what it should be. And it's now a question of again, how do you meet more people and have more fun and continue to grow? And the answer is just do it because it just will happen.
Man, you will look back wow, if I would have been doing this whole time, where would I be?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just so interesting when we look at that. And again, we have to go through those things for a reason. And then how grateful are you now looking back doing this versus Quicken?
Oh, it's night and day. Or even the hotel. I look back at the pandemic. I was sitting again in my office at home. At that point, mortgage was cranking. I was making more money than most people at that point. And I was watching my daughter and I was happy at home. And I'm thinking about if I would have stayed in hotels. I would have been a GM at that point. I would have been running the hotel by myself. For sure. My staff wouldn't have been there. I've been cleaning all the rooms, the 3 people that would have been coming in.
Yeah.
All my responsibility. I probably would have had COVID 12 times. Horrible. And again, great business, great industry. You can make money. You can have a fulfilling career. But is that really what you're looking for? And that's, again, part of the whole problem of the training of what we're really taught versus what the reality of what life really is so separated. Let's
so
say.
separated, and there's so much to learn. And that's where like some people can get paralyzed and not find their dream, their purpose, because they don't know where to look. And so that's why it's so special and I love sitting down with people like yourself, just finding it.
Exactly.
Or, found it and are building on it.
Yep. And it's taken a long time to feel that. Like I've done with people all my life. I've interacted with people. I've led people in some degree, one way or the other. But still, it never felt like the path per se. I felt good. I felt like I was working with people and helping, but it wasn't the like aha where it is today of like, wow, I am meant to do this. I am meant to lead. I am meant to be out with people. I am meant to go into a room and everyone knows who I am and help drive whatever that room needs. Like that's the cool stuff.
How cool is it to have your brand on your shirt?
It's pretty cool, I will say. And I mean, I keep getting everything I can for my brand because again, I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the fun part. Like I've been thinking about businesses for as long as I can remember. I own more domain names than I know what to do with because, I get this idea. I'm like, let me go buy the domain. Maybe I'll do something with it. But again, when you start seeing the pieces come together and it's like, oh, wow, I have 10 years of experience. I have the doctorate in mortgages now. I have the care. I have these things. And now I have a legitimate brand behind me. It's like, oh, I just did that.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
Yeah.
Here we go.
There's something about having, I think we all have a personal brand, good, bad, or indifferent. We all know the person that's negative, and like no matter what's going on, it could be a completely sunny day and they could just got a bunch of money and they'd still find something negative to say.
Crazy.
That's their brand.
Yep.
That's their brand. You know that what you're going to get as soon as they come to your house.
Yep.
As soon as you have a conversation with them, you know what you're going to get. But to have like, again, the brand, the merch, to wear the stuff, to drink my coffee, to do those things,
Seriously.
like it's so freaking cool because like yourself, I dreamed about that kind of thing forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, I've always been a sports fan. Right. And I love Michigan State.
Nice.
And, Michigan State rivalry. And, I hated Michigan and all this kind of stuff. And now I could care less. I like Michigan State. I like watching them. I don't really care if Michigan, I used to hate it if Michigan won. Now I could really care less. Like my brand is my team.
Yep.
I don't wear necessarily like sports shirts anymore. I wear my shirt all the time.
Yep.
Like it's one of those things like I'm not attaching my self-worth to something different or attaching myself to like somebody else's thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's somebody else's company. I think a lot of times we'll have pride over where we work, which is great, especially if that's what you like to be. But it's just some different level. I've worked for people my whole life. It's some different level. This is my brand.
Yep. No, and I will say confidently the same exact feeling. Like I'm a prideful person, regardless of where I am. Like I repped Quicken Loans all over the place when I was there. Like I loved it, but it felt different still. There was still a tangible change when I said, this is me and I'm going out to represent me. It's night and day.
Night and day. That energy and that drive is even night and day.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
Steven, this has been a phenomenal conversation.
I love it.
I'm so glad you waited around for me so patiently. Thank you so much.
It's all part of the fun. And again, I mean, that's to the brand and things like, I'm not one that's just going to ditch out of here for 5 minutes because I'm waiting on someone. Like, there's value in things. Like it's a funny test on both sides. Like, I know you're the kind of guy that's on top of it and that was an oh shit moment and you're okay. And like, we're going to have a great conversation.
Yeah.
On the flip side, that's something, people use and I leverage all the time in different meetings with people of like, hey, are you a good fit to work with? Because, is it simple? Are you going to show up at 7 a.m. to this meeting that I need you at? Like,
yes.
There are both lines. And, again, like, thank you. And please, like, I wasn't going to run out of here. I was excited as you were.
Yeah, no, that's always awesome. I saw the missed calls and I'm like, oh no. And it's like been 30 minutes at that point. So
we all have life.
We all have life.
It happens to everyone and that's okay.
And luckily this is like very rare. So, and that particular thing's never happened. So that's, there's something, first time for everything. We learn,
exactly.
we learn. So
Yes, we do.
Thank you again for coming down.
It's a pleasure, Jason.
My pleasure.